first topic of the day here on Monday to kick things off in Morning Combat, and that was the UFC Edmonton main event, a flyweight tilt with some key title positioning at stake. But in the end, Brandon Moreno looked fully rejuvenated in a one-sided 5-round decision victory over Amir Albazi. Luke Thomas, did Brandon Moreno prove that after the absence, the 9-month layoff, the recharging of the battery, so to speak, that he's fully back? And if so, what does this mean on his potential at getting back into that mix for the flyweight world title?
So I don't know how you felt about this. We've not talked about this card even over text a little bit. So this should be interesting, which is I definitely felt he looked good. I definitely felt that this performance was, for letter B here, a get back fight that he really needed. And I thought, I definitely saw some elements of his game that I was concerned may not be there, and they were actually there. He had, for example, what I was hoping to see, which was, and this is common in Albazi fights, but I want to get to the nuts and bolts of it here. He had a more than 2-to-1 significant strike output success rate, right? So I think Albazi had somewhere in the 60s and Moreno had in the 130s, right? So he was really doubling his output. And really, most crucially, he defended all but one takedown, and that one takedown he got, I think, was round 2, if I'm not mistaken, maybe round 3. Albazi could only keep it. I think Fight Metric gave him 2 seconds of control time. So I think he scooted his hips back and popped right back up. So on that level, there is a lot to like about this performance. This was, to me, I remember I thought Albazi was going to, and there was questions about him coming in, but I thought he'd be able to dictate more of the wrestling game, or at least the clinch game, and kind of control Moreno a little bit. And that was nowhere to be found. Moreno was able to keep the right distance. He has much more dynamic tools. He's able to put multi-strike combinations at multi-ranges better together by far than Albazi. This was there. If you're the way I would say it, BC, is if you're a Moreno fan, there was a lot to like about this fight, and there was a lot that I thought restored a lot of confidence. In particular, was it a good idea to take this much time off, and did he have a significant downgrade, or was he really rusty coming back? The answer to that question is no. However, I really wonder what you think about this, because here was another piece that did kind of occur to me. I called it a good get-back win, and I really mean that. Like, getting back in there, fighting a quality guy, putting together a quality performance. Please don't misunderstand me. But did he look all the way back to me? No, I did not get the sense that he was all the way back. I felt like either he was intentionally kind of holstering some of his weapons, or there may have been just a little bit of rust. I don't know. There was a certain kind of dynamism, or maybe, excuse me. There was a certain kind of restraint that I felt was still present in his game that told me this was not the guy that, beat Figgy. This was a guy on the rebound after losing some tough fights that showed you a lot of the same weapons and a lot of the same ability, but not quite at the same level as I had previously seen him. Do you share that opinion?
No, I don't share that opinion necessarily. Okay. And I wonder if some of that reticence and I get what you're saying, was because Albazi never really made him show the extra gear that we have seen in the past in big title fights, when he got the submission where, the finish of Figueiredo to win the title there, or defend it. I forgot where we were in the rivalry at that point. No, I saw a guy who had complete control of the game, I've been the champion a couple times. I went through the meat grinder of being sort of, kind of a celebrity as the face of growing what they were doing in Mexico. I know the face became Alexa Grasso headlining those cards, but when he was champion, it was sort of like Brandon Moreno is the lifeblood of this movement in Mexico of UFC trying to bring MMA up to speed onto the long tradition of the place that boxing holds in the hearts of the great fan base there. I can understand the burnout he felt of taking so many tough fights in a short notice while he's juggling being a broadcaster, being an ambassador for the UFC. So what I did see in this fight was a lot more veteran poise and command and control. I don't think he went to those extra gears because he didn't have to, but I also think, and this is where I'll give Albazi credit for this, he was never truly in this fight to win it, in meaning that, he didn't have the big advances or sequences where he was putting, Moreno on the ropes and really threatening to come over the top. But I felt he was stubborn and sturdy enough where Moreno could never fully be comfortable. And I like the fact that Moreno kept his foot on the gas without being too reckless, and really just once he was able to consistently stop those takedowns, exposed him in the striking, was able to keep it to the striking. And that's where I saw a rejuvenated, bouncier, happier Moreno. What specifically are you missing? Would you have liked to have seen him gone for more finishes? Maybe I'm saying I'm content with him sort of being the veteran, building a big lead, and then controlling that lead without going into prevent defense and without taking unnecessary chances. He drove that ship home, survive in advance, get the big win that he needed, and now I think he is back in title contention in a big way.
Yeah, I don't know if we're saying something too dissimilar. I do like your point that Albazi couldn't force much else out of him. I definitely agree with that. I absolutely 100% agree with that. He tried and tried and tried and couldn't get. He's got a very simple game. It's a very effective game when it works, but it's a simple game. And there wasn't a lot of multi-dimensional threats because if the takedowns, it turns out with Albazi, if you can stuff the take, and we kind of knew this, but it was really laid out very well in this fight. If you can stuff his takedown, there's not enough with his striking. It's meat and potatoes, which is very good in certain contexts. But if there's no takedown accompanying it, it's kind of like Frankie Edgar. People think Frankie Edgar was a good boxer, and he was. But actually, like what Jose Aldo showed was if you take away the wrestling, the boxing becomes much less effective. And so I think you got a lot of that with this one too. And again, to me, it was like you had all this time off. You were coming off of a weird fight with Brendan Royval. I mean, did he look better this time than he did in the Brandon Royval fight? I don't see how you could say he didn't. He absolutely did. I guess my point was, if a guy can't do that much to you, you're outstriking him 2-1. He can't get a takedown basically to save his life. And when he got one, he couldn't do literally nothing with it. You know, if the plan was to play a more cautious style, not a significantly more cautious one, but a cautious one, relatively speaking, because of all the other factors, it's not like I'm saying it's a bad thing. What I am saying is there is a little bit more to Moreno's game that just never materialized here. And it's not because Albazi did anything to shut it down. I think that's the kind of point that I'm making.
Well, Albazi was sturdy, though. He was sturdy. He was still there. He was still coming forward the whole fifth round. In fact, he tried to do a half-hearted, desperate Max Holloway, let's stand in the middle.
Yeah,
I think he was just always there enough that Moreno was like, okay, I'm comfortable with kicking his ass at this level.
Yeah,
and then he did push the pace a little around 5. He did see if he can get Albazi out of there.
I just challenged the idea that guy who was fighting on Saturday was all the way back. I think what you could argue is if he wasn't all the way back, was it a concerted decision to not do that, right? Was it a concerted decision to play it a little bit safer, given some of the stakes, given what he was hoping to do? You know, you don't want to like follow up a bad performance or, you know, a strange performance anyway, and then all this time off and then come back and get in front of your skis. And now all of the same problems reemerge. And like, why did you do that? So like, I understand that there's a case for that, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that to me was not Brandon Moreno all the way back. Whether it's because that part of him is gone, which I don't think is true, or because there was probably some kind of a strategic element in place that intentionally limited what he was willing to do. That to me is entirely justifiable. I just saw some people being like, oh, he's all the way back. That's the guy.
He's all the way back in a different form, meaning he'll never be the same guy he was in his early physical prime of his late 20s, becoming the champion for the first time. But I think, Luke, these are necessary changes. That's why I'm saying I felt like this was the beginning of the second half of his career, because I feel like this was necessary. What makes him so fun is that, he brings craft, but he brings a dog and he brings the pace and he puts exciting fights on you. But you also have to take big punishment back in return to keep that style going. I felt like this was his way of kind of saying, no, I am a little craftier in these areas. So let me keep him on the outside, but let me also slowly beat him up. And that's what we saw. But hey, don't take our grade for the performances. Long Island Luke, I think we have Moreno talking about how he would grade his own performance here against Albazi.
Tonight I was on fire. Tonight I wasn't worried about nothing, okay? I don't know, I was telling that because with Royval, I feel like my mind wasn't there, you know? I wasn't automatic, just fighting, throwing punches, doing whatever. But tonight, again, everything was connected. Every piece was in the right place. And I was ready to fight with everybody if it was necessary.
Look, he was flowing and the confidence, the happiness, the full, well-rounded game. I get what he's saying. Against Royval, he was just walking forward and fighting. It was just stalking and fighting. There was so much more thought and craft put into this. That's why I liked it, okay? It was a mature performance.
Yeah, no, I didn't dislike the performance at all. I thought it was good. I'm just trying to be like, one of us has the clap, and it's not me. I can tell you that. One of us got the itchy
Thursdays,
itchy
baby.
balls.
Yeah, see you later in the week. Yeah.
I just thought that it was. I saw claims that this was the guy that beat Figgy, and I'm like, if I believe what he's saying is true, that not only could he connect things, but like, you know, the muscle memory was there. Everything was put together in a way, but there was still, to me, an inherent restraint that I just feel like you have to categorize performances according to what they are and where they are. And this, to me, was the right, maybe even the best choice to make given where he's at. But that still doesn't make it all the way back.